Hey guys, it's Shilo here, and today I am going to be looking at and talking about some controversial opinions in the LPS community. About LPS, obviously. Now, I'm going to be talking about different opinions from various different places. So to start with, I'm going to talk about some of my own personal quote-unquote controversial LPS opinions. Then we're going to look at some responses from the Littlest Pet Shop Reddit of some controversial LPS opinions. That I had to sift through a lot of responses on the LPS Reddit because most of the responses were just... I don't really know how to put this. Do you guys know what a controversial opinion is? I'm so serious because I looked at several, and I'm talking several, Reddit threads saying,
"What's your guys' most controversial LPS opinion?"
And then it's just shit like,
"Oh, well, I didn't really care for LPS Popular too much,
and
main fives aren't that special."
Like, come on, guys, hello? What, Have we not been saying this for, like, years? I'm confused. What's going on? Also, some of these will tread the line between unpopular and controversial. So we're gonna get right on into that. Starting with my first unpopular, quote-unquote, controversial opinion about LPS. I personally think that magnets are a way more implemented mechanic than holes. Sue me, I'm sorry. If you just take a second to think about the interactability of LPS magnets, you'll start to see why. Not only do they serve to affix your LPS to something, there are also special mechanics in LPS playset houses that would open the door that has the magnet footprint thing. And then you have the playground playset with the swings and the slide. And if you start to look back at what they ended up doing with holes in LPS, it just isn't quite as interesting to me. Really, the only function they served is to affix an LPS to something, like a vehicle. There is just simply not much use for the holes in LPS feet. At least not in the same way that magnets serve to function for LPS. I do ultimately miss what we could have had for LPS interaction with accessories because of what happened with the magnet change. However, it's not my biggest gripe with Hasbro and the decisions they made in the early days. Another controversial LPS opinion of mine is that, guys, I hate to say it, but sprig hair sitting short hairs aren't actually that bad. I was considering, because I have recently also gotten into doll collecting, I've considered the curlability of the sprig hair. It would be on a very, very micro scale, but honestly, I think if you got some bobby pins in there and you boil washed it and let it set, let it dry, maybe you could give your LPS a curly poofy haircut. I don't know, I'm just saying, maybe I might have to perform an experiment, but either way, curlable or not curlable, the hair is not that bad. They look goofy, but come on guys, it's not that bad. Now, with this next opinion of mine, I'm either going to make some of you very happy because you've been thinking this for a very long time but didn't want to say it, or I'm going to upset some of you. Besides the hype of them being extremely expensive, which I'm never ever for LPS being extremely expensive, I don't care. Maybe it's just the old head in me, but I do not believe that a 1 inch of plastic should ever be sold for more than $100. I don't care. You can argue with your mom. Anyway, on to my original point. I fucking hated when Hasbro would do shit like LPS 748 and LPS 568. The spaniels. The exclusives that everyone loves and everyone wants to pay an arm and a leg and a car payment for. I don't see the appeal in this. Especially when one is so much more expensive than the other and they're basically the same damn thing. Look, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not, like, a top-tier professional collector, but As someone who's never held either of these LPS in their hands, let alone owned one, to me, they look the fucking same. I don't know, there's a slight variation in color difference, and the eye, like the eye shapes are different, sure, and like, you know, one, it has a star on its chest and one doesn't, but like, I don't know. I personally don't see the appeal in either of these two gals. They're pretty. They're pretty. Don't get me wrong. Let's go ahead and move on to Reddit. Now, before we get into some of these, I just want to say that for some of these, I'm going to be discussing what the person actually said and like giving my opinion on what they said. Most of these instances, I'm just going to be using these opinion pieces as kind of jumping off points for my own, you know, for my own opinion here. So this user on Reddit says, buying fakes to build my collection is totally okay. Cheaper to get the pets I want, and I'm not terrified of losing them, damaging them, etc. So basically what they're talking about is buying fakes and stuff from the LPS collection. And I've heard a lot of people give their opinions on fakes and stuff. And I don't know, a lot of people I've noticed really don't fuck with fakes. And I just have to say, in the most respectful way possible, do you hate fun and whimsy? I'm so serious because most LPS are so fucking unaffordable these days. I don't think a lot of people quite understand how unaffordable LPS collecting has become as a hobby, and it's extremely frustrating. Don't you worry your pretty little head about it. I'm gonna make a video about it eventually. But yeah, who fucking cares if you have fakes in your collection? I have a few fakes, and honestly, because of the time in which I bought them, if you aren't an experienced authenticator, you would have no clue that it was even fake. Generally, I do like collecting the authentic versions of LPS. I am not someone who gives a fuck about having fakes in your collection. If you have a dreamy that's extremely unaffordable for you, go for it. Who really cares about what other people think? Like, it's your personal collection. You collect how you want to collect. Period. End of. So this next Reddit comment we're going to get into is actually a reply to someone else giving their opinion in this thread. And honestly, I have more to say about the reply to this comment than the actual comment. So let's get into it. So this person is referring to the new Basic Fun Gen 7 quality. I don't even think the quality is icky. It's what you would expect to get for that price point. Everyone's always going on about, quote, they used to be so much better quality at the same price point almost 20 years ago, end quote, without realizing that the same dollar price today is a lot less than it was back then, and the cost of labor, materials, manufacturing, etc. has gone up by a lot. So these LPS are actually considered, quote, cheaper than they were back in the day. The quality being of the price doesn't upset me personally. I don't know. I think they're very cute as a cheap little collectible / kid's toy. It's perfectly fine to have this opinion. That's completely valid. If you think that the quality is worth the price, that's totally your opinion. However, I don't think your stance of the cost of labor, materials, manufacturing, etc. has gone up. I mean, the cost of the materials, maybe. Not the labor, though. They certainly are not paying these poor factory workers any more than they were 20 years ago. Please do not let them fool you with that. And manufacturing, this is what frustrates me so much about the Gen 7 quality and the fact that they have made the short hair look fake. They 100% have access to the old manufacturing warehouse that used to make LPS. They have not been out of production that long. There's no way that all of the factory buildings that made LPS were condemned. There are some that were operational back in the day. That's how we even got aftermarkets to begin with. A lot of stuff has come out since all the tariff shit, and people are now learning about overseas manufacturing. It's always been like this, guys. Where do you think that aftermarkets were manufactured? I'll give you a second to think about it. I'm sorry, this is why buying fakes was never that big of a deal to me, because they come from the same warehouse. They're made of basically the same materials. They just cost way less, so you can buy them on bulk stores like Alibaba, Taobao, AliExpress, shit like that. A lot of people are like you know, buying aftermarket, some of the old aftermarket designs at like crazy prices because they just don't quite understand that you could go buy that exact same LPS on Amazon for $12 because guess what? They're still manufacturing them. These manufacturing places never close down. They're still making them. So they have the technology and shit to make the old LPS molds. They just chose to go a cheaper route. And that's fine. But I personally, as a longtime LPS collector since I was like fucking 2, the difference matters to me. And if it doesn't matter to you, that's completely fine. But it matters to me. Here we are with yet another Basic Fun take because apparently Shilo cannot stop talking about Basic Fun. 50-50 on this being an actual hot take, but Basic Fun is trying their best and we should be more gracious and grateful to and about them. I will say that in terms of popularity, this isn't quite a hot take because this seems to be what a lot of people think these days. To me, I personally think this is a hot take because while I agree with the sentiment, I will never agree to like being grateful to a corporate overlord for giving me a product that I didn't even really ask for to begin with. They just gave me to get more money out of my pockets. Who asked? I don't recall anyone signing a petition for Basic Fun to bring these back. I don't know. They just want our money. And I will never subscribe to the idea of having to be grateful or having to thank Basic Fun for anything. I appreciate what they're doing for the community and like the fact that they're giving us more LPS to like have and shit, but that does not mean that I have to suck the life out of their Sorry, I'm just not gonna do it. You won't find me sucking corporate dick. Now, this one is actually kind of interesting, and I have 2 hot takes that are kind of along this subject matter that I'm probably gonna put one right after the other to add context. This person says, I wish there were more masculine molds/paints. This commenter says, I agree. I wanted more male ones since I was a kid, but there's not a whole lot. I hope they make more. So these comments are referring to the fact that a lot of people say that there aren't a lot of male LPS. I will say that Hasbro did use a lot of quote-unquote girly colors in their designs, a lot of pinks, purples, you know, bright colors. They often put eyelashes on LPS and like the later generations. That is a valid critique. However, I personally view it from more of the lens of, are you scared to have your male characters have stunning eyelashes? Huh? Pussy? Males can have cute eyelashes too. And oftentimes, what I have found from being bisexual and dating both men and women, men a lot of the times, or people, you know, born male, have fucking fantastic eyelashes. And it's like, boy, what are you doing with all them eyelashes? Give me a fucking Carla. Ugh, okay, glasses back on because what the fuck? I don't hate a mascot without the glasses, but it really just do be looking 10 times better with the glasses on. I'm sorry. My point there is basically any LPS can be any gender you want them to be. An LPS can be male and have eyelashes. An LPS that has no eyelashes or even just one eyelash can be a female or whatever. Or they could be intersex. Guys, we're adults. We can create whatever we want. Like, it doesn't really matter. Have imagination. In terms of toys being gendered, LPS are very unisex. And that leads us into our next post, a reflection on LPS design and gender marketing. I know this might be a controversial take, but I think it's okay to have these opinions about a brand that has changed so much throughout the years. We are all nostalgic about different things. I used to collect first generation LPS as a kid. I had 60, if I remember correctly, at one point, and stopped collecting them when they started making the eyes weird shapes and giving them makeup looks and just all over made them all ... so much more girly. It's as if its designers or marketing team thought they had to market them specifically to girls to make everything pink, to make sure it sells or make them more. As a kid, it made me so disappointed that they started to change them and make them more, quote, unrealistic. To be fair, they had already had massive heads and looked cartoony and stylish. Random colors, symbols, makeup, etc. I was obsessed with animals as a kid and loved my little animal figurines so much. I thought they were the coolest thing and I recently regained interest in them. Luckily, I still have most of my collection. And as it turns out, not only do I still feel fondly about them and and like collecting quote retro toys. I blame the collecting habit on LPS, haha. But my feelings about my gender identity has also been consistent since that time in my childhood. I am transgender. I am a trans masculine non-binary person. I was not a girl even if I was raised as one and subsequently raised with some quote girl or unisex choices for toys. And these little animal figures were really fun to me and in my opinion pretty unisex for kids. I remember bringing them to school and having all my classmates regardless of gender be interested in them. They had stereotypically more boyish ones like lizards and frogs and the dogs, and more quote girly LPS, and everything in between. Very neutral, very cute, so collectible and versatile toys. They were like a cross between dolls and action figures in terms of style and play, and I think that it was so cool. And of course it's okay if you like the girlier ones. Anyone can like toys marketed for girls or boys too. I know that I'm starting to have more of an open mind towards ones with the funky eye shapes, even if they were more stylized for the first gen. I just have a soft spot for toys that are more unisex, and I really liked the fact that the first gen looked more like real animals. I just think the first gen was really cool. Smile. So this thread actually really intrigued me as a fellow trans-masculine, non-binary person. Personally, growing up, I also never really thought of myself as a girl, quote unquote. I just kind of existed in this liminal space of not quite being a girl, but not quite being a boy either. And I think that is the number one reason that I gravitated towards LPS. They were, you know, literally just plastic animals, and that's about as unisex as you can get. And, you know, like this person said, they had more like boyish ones, like the lizards and the crocodiles and shit like that were more stereotypically masculine, and they had quote-unquote girl-colored ones for those as well. I do get what this person is saying. They did in the later gens start experimenting more with like heavy quote makeup, like eyeshadow, and putting more stylized eyelashes on LPS. That's something that I really liked about LPS, and I often had a lot of my quote-unquote girl looking LPS be boys growing up. I don't know about y'all, maybe I was just more progressive. Sarcasm, obviously. As a kid, he just wears eyeshadow, who cares? And not everyone has to think like that, but it's interesting to see other people's opinions because I never really considered that as a kid, the gender marketing. They did kind of play into gender marketing, even though a lot of times they did kind of subvert expectations with the outside of the boxes. They did have pink undertones, and a lot of the houses consisted of a lot of quote-unquote girly colors. Accessories were quote-unquote girly. You know, there are hardly any quote-unquote male or masculine accessories. Like there are some handkerchiefs, like maybe some glasses and stuff like that are quote-unquote masculine. But they definitely do have a point. They definitely did start marketing a lot towards girls. But I don't think that the fact that they started marketing towards girls kind of like takes away from the unisex nature of LPS, because they are just kind of inherently unisex. They're like a cross between fashion dolls and action figures. Like they basically are. And I know that they're technically bobbleheads, but like who uses them as bobbleheads? Anyway, this was a very cool opinion to go over in this video. I very much appreciate this user for putting out this thread. I really enjoyed reading it. Alright, now this one's about to have me heated because it's a Gen 7 opinion, but it has me rooting for basic fun, and it makes me kind of mad. This person says, the new axolotl mold kinda sucks, and there's other pets and molds that look really bad also. I've never really hated the later gens. So,
Hey. Die.
I don't necessarily disagree with this person's perspective that a lot of the other molds look really bad, like I was saying about the short hair, but are you kidding me with that axolotl opinion? You're serious? The axolotl sucks? Are you joking? I don't know. Maybe I'm just too much of a little gay gremlin, but I really like the axolotls and what they've decided to do with the capybara. That is something that I will praise Basic Fun to hell and back for. I didn't necessarily like the color, the red and blue color variations, but when they came out with that neutral boy, that shit really sold me. It's so fucking cute. I don't know. Like I said, not a big fan of the way that they have been coloring stuff lately. They're obviously gonna take those little fucking designs off because those are ugly. That's another thing about the Gen 7 designs that I'll critique, but I'm saving it for my other video. let's move on. So we're taking it back old school again. This person says, I do not care about V1 dachshunds. They're all mid at best and just really ugly at worst. 90% of them are the same shade of brown and nothing else. I have no idea how, outside of having main 5 status, someone would pay more than $5 for one, especially the blind bag one, cross-eyed piss-colored dog. Okay, let's calm down. And stop hating on my piss-colored dog, because first of all, if that's what the color of your piss looks like, you need to see a doctor, because Miss Ma'am is orange. She's not yellow, she's orange. Come on, piss shark is piss shark for a reason, because that is a bright yellow. Anyway, I can kind of see what this person's saying. I really do care for some of the dachshund designs, but yeah, they are pretty neutral, but see, this is the thing with the LPS community, and you cannot please everyone. I was seeing people say how they hated how there were, you know, not a lot of neutral colors, and this person's basically complaining about the neutral brown tone colors. It's, yeah, you can't please everybody. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but like, I'm taking the piss out of some of these people from the Reddit. In no way am I directing any hate towards any of these users or saying, you know, that you guys should go harass them. It could never be that deep. I know I just said that it's never that deep, but this one... This person says, really controversial, but I think the pricing system is actually completely fair. It's all based in supply and demand, just like every other collectible item. If you do genuinely want a pet for cheap, there are very realistic looking fakes out there nowadays, and a wealth of knowledge on customization.
Die.
You got me a little mad here, because I don't think I should have to put down a fucking car payment just so I can get an LPS that's, you know, supposedly my dreamy, which none of my dreamies are that expensive, but yet, Jesus. I think that's really, honestly, a little bit classist to say,
oh, well, it's all based in supply and demand just like every other collectible item.
Yeah, maybe, but I disagree with that also. I think that's also dumb. And to just say to someone whose dreamy is extremely expensive, to just be like,
oh, well, there's good-looking, realistic fakes out there, and you could just customize it.
That's just really shitty to say. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but that just feels really shitty to say about someone who wants to have an LPS for a cheap price point. It's not unreasonable. Oh my god. I don't know, it's just the sense of entitlement this comment gives me just really icks me out. Honestly, I know I've said that everyone else's opinion is valid even if I disagreed with it, but this one's just not valid. I'm sorry. This next one's a little silly. This person says, just like the basic collie mold, paw up and mouth open both look way better. Are you talking about the same mouth open collie that I'm thinking about? I'm sorry, that just doesn't make any sense to me. I will agree on the paw up collie mold thing, that I really have always preferred the paw up version, even with the top heaviness issue. But to say that the mouth open one looks better, maybe leave him out of the conversation. I don't know. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. They made him that way. It's not his fault, but that's a face only a mother could love, please. Anyway, moving on. Sitting boxer is a superior boxer. Honestly, you and I have to agree there. Short hairs have weird chubby legs, not in a cute way. I have noticed that for a very long time, and I've always wondered why short hairs have short and chubby legs. But honestly, if you look at a cat paw, it looks exactly like that. There's a little piece of skin that kind of wrinkles up at the bottom there, you know, that, like, anatomically that's correct. On a smaller scale, though, it does look a little wonky. But I can't blame Hasbro for trying. This person also says that every rabbit mold is underrated, and I will so agree. And I feel like every single rabbit mold is, unfortunately, undercared for in terms of the factory team, because every single bunny, like long-eared bunny I've ever had, they all have a top heaviness problem, and that's not uncommon for LPS, but it really makes them a pain in the ass to display because if you guys display your LPS, you know that once one LPS falls, 10 to 20 of them bitches are falling. Like, I cannot display, because I really do. I love my bunnies and I want them up there with like my short hairs and other molds and shit that I like, that I have in my collection. They are a pain in the ass to display. I wish I could go back in time and make Hasbro make them easier to fucking display, dude. I don't know. Do you guys remember what that other person said about LPS being like fun children's collectible? Well, every yin has to have its yang. This might be an unpopular opinion, especially with Hasbro and other toy companies that are trying to be more environmentally responsible, but it needs to be stated. LPS toys should be given the same respect as Funko Pops, quote-unquote art toys, and other collectibles made out of high-quality PVC vinyl. These aren't, quote, bath toys that get thrown out when a child outgrows them. They are high-quality collectibles that get passed down, and that people spend hundreds and even thousands of dollars on the secondhand market and trade and sell with other collectors. Hasbro has good intentions, but we should try to convince Basic Fun that more expensive plastic will improve their product. Don't piss me off. Regardless of the quality of plastic, to sit there and say that they are high quality collectibles and that they aren't just children's toys is you know, you hit the nail right on the head. That is quite a fucking hot take. I think a lot of us in the community have, for a while now, for the last like 10 plus years, have started to have what I dub as collector brain. Just because people collect an item and it's a sought after item for people to collect does not mean that the item's original intended purpose just suddenly magically dis-a-fucking-pears. I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, Littlest Pet Shops were made for children, and that was always Hasbro's intended market for these toys. Who are in Hasbro's focus groups? Children. Who are in the Littlest Pet Shop commercials? Children. Where are the Littlest Pet Shops put? In the toy aisle. This is just an objectively wrong opinion. It's a Littlest Pet Shop, bro. It's made for children. Like I said, don't piss me off. Let's think with our noggins. And with that being said, we are out of controversial LPS opinions to cover for this video. So I'm gonna go now. Bye guys!